Hey guys. All right, so this is our last skill of the week. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be graphing equations. So again, this is a skill that we've already done in the past, but it is a very, very important skill from Algebra 1. So I want to make sure that we really understand it before y'all go on to geometry and especially Algebra 2 and Algebra 3 and so on. Okay, so we're going to be looking at these 4 different scenarios that you may come to when graphing equations. So we're going to be looking at when you're given the slope and the y-intercept, when the y-intercept or the slope is 0, when your equation is not set equal to y, and then if you're given the graph and you have to create the equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started in. You need to pause the video for a second to draw yourself some little rough sketches of some graphs. You can go ahead and do that now. All right, so if we recall, anytime it tells us what m is, that is our slope. All right, and then b is our y-intercept. Okay, so in order to graph a line, you need to put it in slope-intercept form, which is the form that will immediately tell you the slope and the y-intercept. So that form is always set equal to y. Okay, our slope is 2, so that's the number that is with the x. And then our y-intercept is a positive 1. Okay, so I'm going to underline, or I'm going to highlight these numbers in different colors so you can see them when we get them on the graph. Okay, so the first thing I always like to start with is the y-intercept, because that is a specific point on the graph that we can start graphing our line. Okay, so let's go ahead and use this blue. All right, so our y-intercept is positive 1. Okay, well, it's the y-intercept, so it's on the y-axis, which is right here, this up and down axis, so it's at positive 1. Okay, so that's my y-intercept. All right, and then my slope is this positive 2 here. Okay, so we know that the slope tells us how our graph increases or it decreases. So since it's a positive 2, we know our graph is going to be increasing. Anytime it's a whole number, we know it's understood to be over 1. And slope is the rise and the run of the graph. So my graph is going to rise up 2, and it's going to run 1. It's going to rise up 2, and it's going to run 1. All right, then if we wanted to go the opposite way, it's going to go down 2 and to the right 1. And you can see how it still continues in the direction of that line. Down 2 over 1. Okay, so then you can get a little line, and then you can create a line that goes through those points. And there you have just graphed that equation. Okay, so hopefully that is all familiar to y'all. Nothing new there. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. So this one, we're going to be graphing a line where the slope or the y-intercept is 0. In this case, our m is 0, so that's our slope. Okay, and then it says the y-intercept is -4. Okay, so our equation would look like this. But you don't even have to put this in there, okay? If it's just 0x, that means there's no x's, so you don't even have to put that there, okay? So your equation is just y equals -4, okay? So we know that the number by itself is our y-intercept, okay? So that number is going to cross the y-axis at -4. So I'm going to go to my y-axis. I'm going to go down 4. Okay, so that's where it's going to cross. Then we look to our slope to see how it rises and runs. Okay, but since it's 0, it's not increasing and it's not decreasing. Therefore, we are just going to have a horizontal line like that. Okay, so since there's no slope, then it's just going to look like that. Now, this one is we're rearranging the form of the equation. So we've talked about that when you're graphing a line, it has to be in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, which means it has to be set equal to y. So when we're given an equation that's not set equal to y, we can't just look at this 2 and say, oh, it's paired with x, that's my slope. It doesn't work like that. You have to take the equation and rearrange it so that it's solved for y. So that means we have to get everything that's not y and move it to the other side of my equal sign. Okay, so I'm going to take this positive 2x and I'm going to move it to the other side of my equal sign. So those are going to cancel. I'm going to be left with y equals negative 2x plus 3. Now, if you see that as 3 minus 2x, that is also correct. You're still going to get the same thing. Okay? So we know that the number paired with my x is going to be my slope. Now you need to make sure that you also include that negative sign in there as well, which it's a subtraction sign, but that makes that a negative 2 slope, meaning your slope is going to be decreasing. All right, and then we can see that it has a y-intercept at positive 3. So again, like I said, I like to start at that, I like to start my graph at the y-intercept, because if you start with a slope of negative 2, you don't know where it's rising and where it's falling. Okay, so you really need to start at the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is at a positive 3. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to graph that point right there. All right, now let's do this slope. It's a negative 2. Now, we remember that any whole numbers that we have are understood to be over 1. Okay, so it's going to be down 2 because it's negative, and then over to the right 1. Okay, so we're going to go down 2, over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2, and you can continue going. Now, only if you go the opposite way from where you started do you go any other direction other than right when you're going over from left to right. Okay, so then you just, once you have finished doing that, you're just going to take all of your, I don't know why this one has an arrow on it. You're going to take your dots and you're just going to connect them. Okay, so that line is going to go on forever and ever both ways. All right, this last one, we're given a line and we have to say what the equation is. Okay, so we know it's going to be set equal to y. Oops. We know it's going to be set equal to y because it's going to be in y-intercept form. Okay, so we know that we need to find the slope and we need to find the y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept is really easy because we just look for the point that it crosses through the y-axis. So the y-intercept is at a positive 2 because it crosses through positive 2 on the y-axis. Now, the slope is a little trickier. A little thing that I like to do is I like to try to find every single point that my graph is crossing through an actual segment of the line. Okay, and then I see how they're connected. This one goes up 1 and it goes over 2. Up 1, over 2 every single time. Okay, so if it's going up 1 over 2, then that means my slope is up 1 over 2 is 1/2. Okay, it's a positive 1/2, so it's increasing. It's going up 1, it's going over 2. So now I just have to put it in slope-intercept form. So I just have to substitute my slope and my y-intercept. So I'm going to end up with y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And that is my line. All right, so we're going to practice more of these in the practice problems, obviously. Remember, if you have any questions, you can email me. I would love to help. If you need it, we can do a Zoom, and it would be a screen just kind of like this situation, but you could talk to me back and forth. Okay, so if that's something you need to do, just send me an email. All right, hope this is going good for you guys. We have one more week. Okay, you got it. Finish strong. Okay, see y'all guys.